All right, hey, my name is James, and this is going to be an oil and gas update. It's August the 3rd, and I'm going to start with this right here. Now, why in the world did I show you that? And if you're just watching audio, it was basically just Google resistance band workout fail, and just look at the first guy who tries it, and you'll see what we're talking about. Now, why in the world would I start an oil and gas video off with that? And I'll get to that at the end. It'll all make sense. But real quick, I wanted to go into what's happening this week. Basically, OPEC Plus to decide whether Biden's Middle East trip results in more oil. So last month, Biden went over to the Saudis to beg them to produce more oil to get the pricing down, right? Because more supply equal demand equals lower prices, and vice versa. Less supply equal demand equals higher prices. So right now, the highlights of this article, you can read it yourself at worldoil.com. But the highlights in this article are, let me find it real quick. There you go. I think they will do very little, said Christopher Rawl, senior analyst at Columbia University. After Biden's visit, they may pay a bit of lip service, but not produce more. In fact, and even the promise won't be earth-shattering. They're genuinely worried about a recession, which we can get into a little bit. So there's that, and then it's entirely unclear how much Saudi Arabia will raise production, said Jan Stewart, excuse me, global energy economist at Piper Sandler and Company in New York. The Saudis don't ever want to give the impression that they're going to give Americans any kind of special treatment. In any case, we don't believe they have all that much left to give. So in other words, Saudi may be running out a little bit out of oil. And if you're in the oil and gas world, you know that Saudi, they are a big producer, but they are running into their own problems, which I can cover into another one. The big oil giants, I mean, it's still Saudi and the OPEC Plus type thing, but there's Russia and America. Those are the big three giants. Other countries, excuse me, and Africa and China and others, they do produce oil, but not enough to really move the dial, if that makes sense. So depending on what they say is what's going to happen with oil prices currently, right? Where we're at with oil right now is that it's more of like there's a lot of FUD, fear, uncertainty down in the air, okay? At the same time, the fundamentals are really, really good for pricing going up. So what do I mean by that? In other words, if OPEC Plus, even if they say yes, but they don't change anything, which can happen, they just pay lip service, right? It may cause oil prices to go down a bit, maybe 10, 15 bucks a barrel, something like that, right? If they say no, it'll probably cause them to go up, maybe $10, $15 a barrel. We'll see what happens and what the analysts think over time. But at the end of the day, so in other words, currently in our current kind of day-to-day, week-to-week gas pricing, the oil and gas the oil price is really heavily based on just whatever news article comes out, right? Or whatever happens when people say, "Oh yeah, we're going to do this." It doesn't matter if they're going to or not, right? It matters if they say it. So because people aren't really addressing the fundamentals. The fundamentals, we'll get into an article about that in a sec, really show that oil and gas is going to have the biggest squeeze ever. In fact, a lot of people that I'm talking to are saying next year in 2023, gas prices will be even higher. I'll say it again. Next year in 2023, gas prices are predicted to be quite a bit higher than they are currently. All right, let's get into one article. This is this is a little thing from Tracy, I think her last name's Shart, but she goes by Tracy Chai on Twitter. She is amazing in the oil and gas industry and really energy in general, and she's top notch. So if you want to find out more, I definitely suggest giving her a follow and seeing what she has to say. She wrote this great article, and it's not much an article, it's actually a kind of independent thing that I subscribe to, but what this shows is, and this is kind of a little spoiler, but everything that I've been told about the industry, everything others are telling me about, is really true, and it's going to come full circle here soon, right? So I'm just going to go over it very briefly. I'm going to attach this article to the email so that you can, excuse me, I keep saying article, but this paper to the email so that you can read it yourself and go into details if you'd like. Ask me questions if you want. But basically, it's Russian oil price caps. So the G7 aimed to have price caps on Russian oil in place before December 5th. Long story short, basically the European countries that are very pro-green energy and everything like that, saying, hey, we're gonna, and very anti, hey, stop invading Ukraine, are basically trying to put a price cap on Russian oil, right? This is not going to work. Long story short, there's no way to enforce it. What are you going to do if Russia says no? Are you going to invade them? How are you going to slap their hand? More sanctions that aren't really hurting Russia? There's not a way that they can really enforce it, right? To enforce a rule, you have to have leverage, okay? So think about police, right? They have leverage. They can legally take you to jail if you break a law. Now, if you're not breaking a law and they take you to jail, yeah, that's on them. They're going to get some blowback for that, right? As a citizen, at least in America, we have rights. That's our leverage back, all right? And we get that from the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, all the great, wonderful documents that our founding fathers put together to help protect us. But at the same time, if we break a law, they have the rights, the leverage, and the power to incarcerate us, put us in jail, bring us to court, stuff like that, right? So you have to have leverage in order to enforce things, okay? There's no leverage. Europe has no leverage on Russia. Russia already said they wouldn't sell to any country that accepts price caps. So if the country says, hey, we're going to put a price cap on you, Russia says, okay, fine, we're not going to sell to you, G7, any of your countries. We're going to sell to China, to South Africa is the next point. We're going to sell to Asia, Africa, South America, and we're going to give them a discount, right? Because they don't put any sanctions against Russia. They're like, hey, we're going to choose, we can choose who we want to sell to and at what price. Now, typically, you're not going to go above the global standard, right? But if someone says, hey, gas is, $3.50 a gallon right now, I'll sell it to you for $3. Would you take? Yes, you would. You'd buy. It's like, hey, how much can I do it? In fact, some of the people are thinking in the industry are thinking that what's happening is China is buying this at like a 20-30% discount from Russia, relabeling it, and then selling it back to America at a higher price, at the market price. So, and that is all from the sanctions that we put on Russia, that our government put on Russia. That aren't really working, and they're just, again, there's that FUD, that fear, uncertainty, doubt that is raising oil and gas prices, right? So you thank your government for that one. Germany, this is a big one. So, excuse me, green light for coal as a gas substitute. All right, so we're gonna get into this. It doesn't make much sense, but we're gonna get into it. So, Germany is a huge green energy. In fact, I would say that they are the leader of green energy in Europe, right? They're the ones that are pushing the more. They recycle. I don't know if you've ever been to Germany, but they have like 7 trash cans, depending on what type is. If it's actual trash, if it's biodegradable, if it's plastic, if it's paper, if it's, I don't know, something else. I'm missing like 2 of them, but I had some dear friends of mine that lived in Germany, and I had one of my best college friends. He actually did his education in Germany for high school because his parents were missionary, worked at a missionary school, right? So he has, and I actually went to visit them. It was great, but he has a lot of experience in German culture, and they are super green. They're super like, hey, these are our rules that we've instated for this reason, and they are leading the green movement in Europe, and the U.S. is following, and so are a bunch of others. But here's the point: when you're in a green movement, you're like, hey, we want to do less emissions, less dirty energy, stuff like that, right? But they're having a problem. They're saying, hey, we're not going to use oil and gas, or we're going to use oil. We're going to try and cut back our natural gas because we get a lot of that from Russia, right? And right now we're really opposing their war with Ukraine. And as it talks about down here, where did it go? They're closing their nuclear power plants, which I'm like, What in the world? In fact, like Elon Musk and everybody looks at it says, "Hey, that's a bad idea. Nuclear is actually a very clean form of energy. It's a little scary because of Chernobyl, but recently, in our modern era, we've actually put in a lot of safeguards for that to where we're not going to have another Chernobyl. It's very, very unlikely for us to have another Chernobyl. Um, my actual thought is, what if we do a bunch? And I'm not really that educated in nuclear, but what if we do a bunch of smaller nuclear plants around that could be, mitigate that danger a little more, yet power, the cities around it type thing. So I don't know, just my thoughts. But Germany gives a green light for coal as a gas substitute. So in other words, they're saying, hey, um, they're using coal to generate electricity, and right now they're doing natural, as opposed to natural gas. Natural gas is super clean, super. I mean, you can see it kind of almost in the stove, right? Like when you light the fire, you don't get like a bunch of smoke in your face, right? Coal gives a ton of smoke. It is the dirty energy of the energy world, okay? But it's plentiful, it's cheap, it's I don't know if it's easy to make, but it's plentiful and cheap and works. So it's like, what are you doing type thing. I mean, they're trying to stick to their ideology, and they're actually going against it. So because they're in a pinch right now, and she says Germany is in peril. Yeah, I can feel that. And here's a record high energy cost for consumers is coming. A little scary. Well, not to me. I'm actually invested in it, so it's like, okay, that'd be good for me. Um, I'm gonna skip this article, let you read it, but basically, Asian LNG, so it's liquefied natural gas, spot prices surge. This is good because again, Europe is trying. I'll go into a little bit. Okay, Asian natural gas prices rallied to a fresh 4-month high as utilities in the region stepped up efforts to compete with their counterparts in Europe. So going back to Germany, right, and other European countries, but I use Germany as an example, they use LNG, liquefied natural gas. That's where you compress the gas so much that it forms a liquid, you put it in a container, and you send it over there. And then you can open it up with the spigot, and it becomes actual natural gas, right, once you depressurize it. They use a ton of it because it is a green energy, right? But they get most of theirs from Russia. Russia's kind of putting the squeeze on them, or they're saying, hey, we don't want to support Russia because of the war, so we're going to look for other places. So they're competing now. They're trying to get all this stuff up because they're shut down their nuclear reactors. They're stopping the use of gas, or excuse me, like oil, and so they still have energy needs, right? They want to keep the lights on. And so they're going to natural gas, and now they've approved coal, okay? Because we have to get our energy from somewhere. When you switch on the lights, when you turn it on, I want you to know that 60 to 80, maybe more percent, depending on where your geographic location is and how they get the energy, is from natural gas, especially if you're in the U.S., right? Some places in the U.S. use a lot of coal, but majority of it is going to come from natural gas. So when you think about your lights, like, hey, what are they using natural gas for? They're burning it and then converting it into energy, into electricity, and that's what you use when you turn the lights, right? That's how it works. And actually, it's become one of those things that if you're looking at your power bill or you're shopping electricity rates, which by the way they've gone up a bit because natural gas is at all-time highs, you'll notice that a lot of them say, hey, 100% green or whatever. Well, that might make you feel good, and I hate to spoil it if it does, but that doesn't mean that it's coming from solar and wind and stuff. Natural gas they have put it in the category of green energy. So basically what those people are saying is that, hey, we're burning 100% natural gas to give you your energy needs type thing. Or 90%, 95% natural gas, and we get like 1% from wind and whatever, you know. Okay, keynotes, this is important. With natural gas prices at almost all-time highs in Europe and particularly rising in Asia, the mad dash for supply continues. This bodes well for U.S. producers. Short-term, I expect this market to be highly volatile and urge caution for short-term traders. That said, if you're a long-term investor, these pullbacks in the U.S. Gas equities provide excellent opportunities. The U.S. just became the world's largest LNG exporter of the H12 this year. I expect this trend to continue. I prefer companies with not only production and distribution, but distribution capabilities as well. So what is she saying there? Well, she's saying that in the U.S. we are producing a ton of natural gas, and it's going to go higher. Like everybody sees the writing on the wall. Natural gas, because of such a demand in Europe and Asia, is going to go higher. More on that in a bit. But basically, she's saying, nothing on this is investment advice or anything like that, but what she is saying, hey, it's going to go higher. Maybe I'm going to invest in it. What about you? Type thing. And if you're a short-term trader, just be careful because there could be, Richter scale pullback, so it could go up, in the course of 2 to 4 weeks. It could go up $4, and then it could go down $3.50, in another 2 weeks, and up again type thing. So I'm actually, what I'm doing is I'm swing trading it type thing, kind of up and down, and seeing where it goes. Let's see here. Okay. This is just a chart showing the U.S. became the world's largest LNG exporter for the first half of 2022, and this is where it is. And this is basically where it's exporting from. So you got Corpus Christi, Cameron, Freeport. A lot of those are in Texas. Most of all of them are in the Gulf type thing. Let's see here. This talks a little about ammonia. I'll let you read that. But basically, it's what people are saying is there might be some food shortages in the future, like a lot, because farmers can't get fertilizers, and Russia may try and use this as a weapon against the U.S. and others. All right, so, and this talks about a river in Germany. I'll let you go over that, and you can have your questions. The last thing I want to get is this. While the financial demand for oil may be weak due to recessionary fears, the physical demand for oil is healthy. The curves are still extremely backward dated, indicating tightness in the physical markets. So what does she mean by backward dated, right? She goes into two ways of doing it: backwardation and Contigo explain, right? So this is when they talk about futures markets. Okay, backwardization, this means the prices are higher as you approach the expiration. So layman's terms, hey, let's just say in December 2022, we expect oil to be at let's just say 120 a barrel, okay? Backwardization is as you get closer, like in November, they redo that and say, hey, we're thinking it's going to be 135, 140 a barrel, right? That's backwardization. It means it starts in the future, it kind of starts lower, and then it goes up higher as we approach the futures date that we think it'll be. Contigo or Contango is basically it loses value as it goes, right? So in other words, and this is super simplified, as she says, in other words, these two charts here, this with WTI is Contigo. So it starts high, and then as we get to the approaching date, it starts to go lower and kind of stabilizes off. So in other words, with that current example, hey, oil is supposed to be 120 a barrel in December, and in November 1st, we're like, hey, it's probably going to be 100, and then November 20th, we're like, hey, it's probably going to be 85, and then November 30th, we're like, yeah, it's going to be 85, or something like that, right? It kind of goes down and then stables out. What she's saying is oil and gas is not in that at all, because the physical demand is healthy, and that's what I mean by the fundamentals. The fundamentals for oil and gas are ripe, and prices are going to go up, and they're going to stay high for a while, right? So she's saying it's more of this chart where basically it's kind of up and down a little bit, and then it just goes up and down, but it has a continuous angle upward on it, right? So as that didn't work very well. It has a continuous upward angle, and so that is what she's saying oil and gas is in, and she is super right. So here's another backwardization and Contigo. So that's a great article by her, and it just shows you that oil and gas, it's at an amazing time, it's an amazing point to invest in, because as I tell you, you're going to invest in one way or the other. Either you're going to pay at the pump, or you're going to get paid at the bank, right, by oil and gas. But it's an amazing time. Right now it's going to be choppy, kind of up and down, up and down, up and down. It'll smooth out, and eventually it will fly up. I'm under the impression that it will fly up in the after the midterm elections. So let's go to, again, that's from Tracy Schuchart. I hope I'm not butchering that name, but she is absolutely wonderful. Let's see here. Yep, so that's all. Okay, this is a little one where Biden, hey, and this is goes back to the rubber band and the choppiness. More than 5 million barrels of oil are part of historic U.S. emergency reserves release to lower domestic fuel prices were exported to Europe and Asia last month. So in other words, our president just let a bunch of more oil into the system, right? Because he's trying to keep it lower. In fact, the export of crude and fuel is blunting the impact of moves by U.S. President Joe Biden to lower record pump prices. Biden on Saturday renewed a call for gasoline suppliers to cut the prices, drawing criticism from Amazon founder Bezos. What we're seeing when oil, I want you to think about this. Every time oil goes down, this is a good way to think about it. It's an artificial lowering. All right, so he is drawing from the strategic reserve, and I've got another video for that, but ask me questions if you want to know about that. And that's fine. It's okay as long as you fix the underlying problem, right? If not, what happens is you're obligated to fill it back up, and now you become a huge buyer. Remember, every drop of oil, every barrel of oil that he pulls out right now, he's going to have to put back in. And if oil, he's pulling it out at $100 a barrel right now and putting in the market to lower it more, cool. Drop it to 90 or maybe a little lower, whatever, cool. But then he's going to have to put it back in. So now, all of a sudden, that oil that you put on the market, it's gone. It's not coming back anymore. So the price jumps back up to like 100, right? And then now you're pulling 5 million barrels of oil or whatever a day out of the market. So the price is going to jump even higher. It's going to go up to 120, 130, you know, because you haven't fixed the problem. What you've done, you said, hey, we're just going to bandage this wound, splint it up, and we're still going to walk on the broken, but we're not going to fix the broken leg, okay? And then you do that for 3 months, and you're like, okay. And then you go to stand on it, and you're like, ouch, this is hurt, because you haven't fixed the problem, right? In other words, this is why I got the resistance band routine, the workout fail, because this is what is going to happen to it. It's going to be like a rubber band that stretches and then all of a sudden pops. And that's going to this is how America will feel and the rest of the world once oil and gas pops back. That's going to feel horrible. But there is hope. There is hope because we have an opportunity, right? So we've got an investing opportunity. If you're interested in this, let me know ASAP, like today if you can, because it may be gone by this time. But we've got a minerals tract available type thing. This is the last email I sent out. If you want to be on it, that's cool. Let me know. But actually, you're already on it if you're receiving this. But we've got an investing opportunity for minerals. It's called the Pinehurst. I'll skip all the details on it, but I'll tell you why this is a good one. It's got a large amount of oil and gas companies that are pulling out oil from it. So if we go through a deep recession, which people think we will, but people think it'll be very long, and one of them, for some reason or other, gets shut down or something like that, you still got 7 others to do, right? So it's very diverse in that sense. It's also got a lot of acreage to be drilled on as well, and it's got and it's producing pretty well right now with an estimate of oil at $70-$90, right? So it's gonna be it's a good one. What it is it's very, very stable, right? That's what I want you to know about this. It's very stable. You get a good ROI right now, about 15-ish%, give or take. Where you do nothing. It's risk diverse, inflation protected, completely passive, no liability, and it's got I'll get into the predicted high ROI for the next 3 to 5 years. So we're thinking right now it's going to produce our estimates say about 15%, give or take, right? Might be 18, might be 14, you know, but that's what it produces right now. As oil and gas goes up in the future, this is going to produce a ton more because it's already got 27 producing wells, right? And so it's got 13 permits. They can move some other wells and put some more on, and it's got plenty of ducks to put into it. But my point is this: this is going to be, I think this is going to be a little bit of a sleeping giant, is my point. So right now it's going to produce 15%, which isn't bad. That's a good investment, actually, especially if it's passive, right? It is not currently like others that I have that are producing 30 to 40%, right? That we don't know if we're going to find those deals anymore. But right now it's producing, we were going to estimate 15%. They put another well or two on, it'll probably jump up to 25%. If commodity prices fly up, which everybody looks like they're going to next year badly, it could go up to 40 or 50, 40, maybe 50% we're going to see type thing. We'll know when we get there. But the biggest thing is this: it's very risk diverse. It's great for a portfolio just to put some of it in there, just to have some balance, some stability, right? And then two, I think if you're older, if you're saying, hey James, I don't want a lot of risk right now, I think this is a really good one for you because it kind of diversifies everything out, right? So that's my take on it. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email at, I'll put it right here, james@jthbuyer.com. Again, james@jthbuyer.com. Shoot me an email on it type thing. But if you're interested in this package, let me know ASAP type thing. I'm pretty sure it is still available, but I've got to check. But I would definitely say put a little bit in this if you can, because you don't want to miss out, right? I think this is my thoughts. I think we've got about 6 more months, maybe even less actually, before mineral packages will just be too expensive to buy, and it was all the dumb money is going to jump in, right? And at that time, we just kind of we don't want to buy something that's not a good deal, and so we're probably going to stop buying mineral packages at that time. I would encourage you to get in now. You don't have to put the whole. I wouldn't say put the whole baby in type thing, but put a little bit of it. Don't put all that you got in there. But if you're gonna say, hey, I got 100,000, I want to put in oil and gas, James, cool. I'd say for this one, put 25, 30 in, and then we'll find some packages for the other 70. If you're like, hey, I'm in my 60s, I just want something stable, I've got 100,000, cool, let's put 50 into this. That's where I'm at. Those are my thoughts on it, because it's going to be very stable long term. And by the way, people are scared of a recession. I get that. I'm in the camp that I think we will have one. From the people I've been talking to, it will probably be it may be the longest drawn out recession that our generation has faced. I don't know if it's going to go into a depression, right? Pretty much the difference between they say the difference between a recession and a depression is one, in a recession your friend loses your job. In a depression, you lose your job. But it's really, I guess, economically the amount of months. I think a depression is considered 22 months of negative GDP. With a recession is only 2, right? Quarters, excuse me, 22 months or quarters, I forget. But a recession is only 2 quarters of negative GDP, right? So you go down 0.3%, the next month go down 0.5%. You've only gone down less than 1%, but it's a technical recession, right? Because things are slowing down, they're recessing. But oil may hit $60 a barrel, right? So you're still going to make a pretty good cash flow considering. But here's the thing. Most oil and gas companies are going to keep drilling as long as oil is above $45 to $48 a barrel. So this is a very good one, I would say, very secure one to go into. And I'm not worried about oil dipping. With all the fundamentals, even if we're in a recession, I have my doubts of oil dipping below $60 a barrel if it does for very long. And this is the reason why. In a recession, people are going to say, hey, we can't go out to eat that night. I cook from home. We're going to switch from beef to chicken. We're not going to get that big screen that I wanted, you have to cut back on your makeup or whatever type thing. I know some of you just flipped your stuff on that last one. But what you're not going to give up, you're not going to say, hey, I'm just not going to drive to work today. No, not going to do that. Not a recession. If you have a job, you are happy to have a job, right? And so oil and gas is still going to be used. Yeah, you're going to cut out those vacations and stuff like that, right? But oil and gas is still going to be used regardless. Even buying tennis shoes and stuff like that, those all use petroleum products. So that's my point. I'd say get in this as soon as you can, especially if you don't have any exposure to oil and gas. Again, 25,000 is the minimum. If you're close to that, let me know, type thing. And if you have any questions on it, let me know. But the biggest thing for this one is it's risk diverse, and when oil and gas goes up next year, it's going to be, I think this is going to be a great portfolio, great track to have in your portfolio. Again, I'm James. I'm going to sign out, but this is your oil and gas update, and it's 8-3.